And thank you, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I know we have a lot of people on this call. Like you, I am deeply upset about recent events. And in fact, I would say that I'm rattled. I know I have a lot to learn and also much to do. You know, last night, Oprah Winfrey was on television with a spotlight special. And the title of it was, "Where do we go from here?" And the first question that she asked was, is this incident going to change things? This incident with George Floyd with the knee on his neck, killing him, and the video of that we all have seen maybe many times, is this going to change things? And I just feel like the answer for me is yes. This is something different and special that will galvanize, at least I know it has galvanized me. I know I have a lot to learn and a lot to do, but the Global Wellness Summit and the Global Wellness Institute, I know we are in a leadership position in the wellness industry, and there is no real wellness while there's racism, violence, and discrimination around the world. I do believe we have a unique lens with which to view the events of the past weeks and to do something about it, using the power of our collective voices and the global platform on which we stand. We've done a lot together already. So this might be greatest challenge, but I feel confident that we should and will move forward collectively in this regard as well. I am personally committed to this. I will tell you at the end of this call what we will be doing in the near future. It's just a start, but at least there's some action steps that we are committed to. But today is about listening. You're going to hear from a group of wellness leaders who wanted to express their thoughts and feelings as a way to start this conversation. We will then hear from some of you directly, spend some time in a breakout session so we can share our thoughts and feelings in a more intimate setting. And then we'll come together again at the end to share as this large group. And I would like to invite you to please try and stay with us for the entire hour. I think that will be valuable. So after a few words from my colleague, Nancy Davis, we will begin. Nancy?
Thank you, Susie. And thanks to all of you for being here and being part of what I also believe is a new chapter for us, and for your willingness to participate in an honest, open conversation about a very important topic. I have the unenviable task of keeping us on track and on time. So apologies in advance if I have to gently interrupt anyone in order to allow for as many people to contribute as possible. It's never an easy task, but particularly difficult given the nature of this. Stopping people when they're sharing deep feelings isn't easy, but I'll try to do my best. A few logistics. Beatrice, our colleague, will keep everyone muted to allow for the cleanest audio. When it's time to contribute a thought, please go to the bottom left of your Zoom window, click on the microphone icon once to unmute, and then click again to mute yourself when you're finished. You have the option to see this beautiful global mosaic of faces on this call by choosing the gallery view in the upper right corner of your Zoom window. But when the thought leaders are speaking this morning, you may prefer the speaker view, which makes that person prominent on your screen. There are many people on the call, and if you want to scroll through to find friends and colleagues, at the center right of your Zoom window, there's a blue arrow. Clicking on that arrow allows you to scroll through the pages of participants. We encourage you to use the chat function throughout the call to post thoughts, questions, suggestions. Most of you are already in the chat, but just in case, the bottom center of your Zoom window, there's a chat icon. Click that and the window will open to your right where you can post. It's now my pleasure to introduce the first of our guest thought leaders, each of whom will speak for 4 minutes. Randy Mae Stanford-Leibold is a mindfulness and meditation teacher, speaker, counselor, author, and wellness facilitator. She's the founder of Inspired Journeys, a consultancy that focuses on assisting individuals, organizations, and communities on their wellness, resiliency, and mindfulness journeys. She's part of a wellness collective called Restore, which focuses on wellness and healing for Black women. She is thoughtful, smart, warm, and determined. She lives in Canada, but is helping people from all over the world deal with what she calls collective grief. I'm sure we can agree that's an apt description of what we're all feeling. Randy?
Good morning, everybody. I'm so grateful that we're all here today in this space. And so I know I have 4 minutes, so I'm going to try to use it to the best of my ability. Being on this call, I'm already feeling like I'm going to start to cry. So if I do, please forgive me. I wanted to talk today about collective grief. So I'm a counselor, and I've been a counselor for the last 10 years. And in this moment, I have decided to open up my private practice to providing free counseling to Black people all around the world who want to have access to counseling. And I started with one Saturday, and now my schedule is full for the month of June. And because what I'm recognizing as I've talked to people in different parts of the world, we're all going through stages of grief. And different stages of grief at different times. And one of the stages of grief that is predominant is disbelief, feelings of guilt, feelings of anger, feelings of hopelessness. And every once in a while, this little weave of hope, of inspiration gets weaved through this. But the saddest part for me as a person, as a Black woman, as a Black counselor, providing support at this time, is that people are feeling afraid and so sad. On Sunday, I got an email from someone saying, I just need to talk to somebody. And I connected with this woman on video, and she lives in Connecticut and I live in Toronto. And she said she's afraid to leave her house, and she's afraid for her brothers to leave the house. Not because of COVID, but because there's a possibility that they could die. And so I don't know if anybody else watched Oprah's show last night. If you haven't, it's on YouTube and it's free. It's an hour long. And one of the counselors on her show talked about how when we watch somebody die, and when a member of the Black community watches another Black member of the community die, there is a mental health impact that can last for 3 months and beyond. It's called indirect trauma that we experience. Canada in Toronto, our public health community has now deemed this as a mental health crisis for Black people. So I'm grateful that in Toronto, our public health community is forward thinking and has decided to label and create a space to actually name this and say this is a Black mental health crisis. So as I start to explore this idea with you all, I want you to understand how important this is, how valuable this time together we have is, how important is we recognize, yes, we watched George die, but every time we go into the workplace, and every time even I go into the workplace, people don't assume I'm the teacher. They let me know that I'm not educated, even though I am. I get stopped. I used to work at a police station for 6 years, and every time I walked in the building, even though I could open every key, every building in the community police station, I was always asked, where do I work and who's my supervisor? But none of my other colleagues were asked those questions. And I'm working in the police station to help victims of crime. To put that in context, right? Every time I go to teach, people are looking for the teacher, not assuming that I could be the teacher. And so this is something that is ongoing. I have a brother who works for an airline I won't disclose, and his colleagues decided to have a party and call him on his work line and call him the N-word directly onto his work line. And he tells his employer, and the employer hasn't done anything about it. So I share these personal stories and my professional stories with you to put into context that what we've seen has been happening, and it has a residual impact on our mental health. It has a residual impact on our mental health as a global community, but it has a residual impact on the Black community. because now I have to think about my 8-year-old son and what his life is going to be like. And if I choose not to do anything in the spaces that I have, what will his future be like? And as you think about your communities that you're in, think about what your friends, family, people you've met and people you've never met, what will their experience be like if you don't do anything?
Randy, thank you so much.
You.
Thank you for sharing. I know that there's so much more to say, and there will be many more opportunities for this later in the call and also in future calls. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next person who's going to contribute is Patrick Sauce. He's founder and CEO of Global Project and Spa Advisory, a company dedicated to providing worldwide expertise in strategy, project management, wellness solutions, and the support of spa brands that seek international development. He was instrumental in creating the Evian Spa concept and now is in charge of their international development. Patrick is passionate, outspoken, and clear. He lives in France. He's deeply committed to the evolution of wellness, both in the public and private sectors. Patrick?
Thank you, Nancy. Hello, everyone. So I will give you a few words about how we can assess the situation from here and what I see for the wellness industry. I would say that the wellness industry has an important role to play today because in a way we should be the best in class in terms of understanding and promotion of the richness of the diversity. Wellness, in my opinion, can't be only a selfish target. You know, we have a lot of treatment, of tools, of product, of daily routine and so on to develop our own wellness. But we live in an open world, in a world of diversity, a world of interactions, of travelers, of different cultures. And so I think that what I usually call the social wellness could also be more considered. I used to participate to the Global Wellness Summit, and during this summit, there is already a very large open mind to the different cultures. Maybe we are more open to cultures from Asia and India, maybe more than from Africa. So maybe this is something we can work on. But beyond that, I'm just wondering if we shouldn't have a more inclusive vision of the human being in order to more consider the wellness for all and not only for individuals. Maybe you remember that around the wellness moonshot, there is a very interesting word which is include. I think we could elaborate around this word because it's a word today, and I think we could make something to make sure that this become a reality. So the bottom line for me is that the wellness industry today has a very important position and also a very important commitment to take in order to demonstrate that wellness is important, that we can live very well together in terms of wellness at work, excluding discrimination, and in terms of wellness diversity, embracing different cultures, origin from everywhere.
Patrick, thank you so much. I think you touch on what we're feeling in the industry. This is so much obviously bigger and broader, but there's so much we can do in the industry, and I certainly look forward to your participation helping us with that, which would be absolutely wonderful. Thank you. Next to speak this morning is Melise Galula. She is the co-founder of Well and Good, an award-winning media company, as well as a sought-after wellness expert herself. In 2018, Melise was named one of the 9 most creative entrepreneurs by Inc. magazine, and they were right. Melise lives in New York, sits on the advisory board of the Global Wellness Institute. She has her finger on the pulse of millions of millennials who are the consumers of the content of Well and Good, and who these days are outraged by the racial injustice they witness and experience. Melise is as well. Melise?
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Randy, May, and Patrick. I feel so honored to be able to share some thoughts about this. It is a very important issue to me. For me, issues of equality, racial justice are part of wellness. And for those of us who haven't thought about those connections before being in the wellness industry, it is no longer an option. It is absolutely mandatory to every business decision you make going forward. And I say that because I don't want any of us to peel away from the intensity of this moment, where there is solidarity and support and social media, and not do anything in our own businesses and our own lives. White privilege means that this has been an option. And I think all of us who believe in the equality of people around the world, not just in America, where we're having this issue. So yes, this is a huge American and North American history problem, but this is a global one too. And I think all of us must pull this into our businesses now and figure out what that means for our businesses. So for Well and Good, that's been a large part of educating our mostly millennial audience and being there supportively through the grief, through issues of white privilege and guilt and paralyzation around what to do when you want to be a powerful ally. Well and Good is providing a lot of content on this, but we're not the only source. There are lots of others out there, and I encourage people to dive in and feel the discomfort, because it's only through really processing that you can be a true ally to people who have been waiting for us to wake up and help lead the way and change the systems that have kept people oppressed for far too long. I know many of us in the wellness industry are familiar with Maslow and the hierarchy of needs there. And if you can take a look at that after this conversation and see how many basic needs of people of color and Black Americans have been compromised in this country systematically, you will feel a sense of what you can do, I think, in your business to not make that so. I also encourage that if your board is not diverse, it should be. If your executive team is not diverse, it should be. If there are Black people in your company, ask them if they feel supported or what they could do to feel more supported. I feel like the recruitment process will be one that's very engaged with the issues that are happening in the country right now. And we cannot let up on this. I think this is the first step to opening more doors in the wellness industry in our businesses. I don't know if that's been 4 minutes or not, but if anyone has follow-up questions for me, Nancy and Susie can facilitate that. And I would just like to say that to Nancy and Susie, thank you so much for stepping into this conversation. I know it's a difficult one, and I know our board is largely white and that we want to change that. And I really appreciate you for doing that. So thank you.
Elise, thank you so much. I'm very touched and moved by your words. I know you are very emotional about this as well, as we all are. So thank you for sharing your perspective and for all that you do. Now I would like to introduce, and we will get to questions very shortly, or comments and people sharing. The last person to share in this regard comes to us from India. Payal Mahajan is the founder of Essential Body Couture Skincare. She believes that beauty is more than skin deep, but that skin color is important to her and the way she sees the world. She has a strong philosophy about beauty and a powerful commitment to a just world. Payal?
Thank you, Nancy. Good evening, everyone. It's evening where I am right now. This is an issue that is not new, and I want to thank all of you for being here and bringing your presence to this extremely important conversation. But please understand that this is not a new issue. Current events and the ways of the world, social media have brought this to the highlight, but it is on us to try and ensure that there isn't another George Floyd, that there isn't another Breonna Taylor, that we don't have to witness more people of color, especially Black lives, being lost because we are not ready to be held accountable for a system that is inherently broken. And Melise, to your point, this is not just an American problem, this is sadly a global problem. It is a problem that exists here in India because I have been watching over and over how we are the model minority. Indians are the model minority. And so as appropriated as our culture is, especially in the wellness industry, whether it's Ayurveda or yoga, we also are viewed as the color that is acceptable and to be put on a pedestal and held up in front of audiences. And so the voices of our Black brothers and sisters are not heard. And I feel extremely strongly about this because I've been fighting for the rights of my brothers and sisters since my early 20s. There are movements that have transcended time that have been happening from long before I was born. And it is on us as members of the wellness industry to ensure that we build a movement that is not just diverse in the way it looks. We need to move past counting colors. We need to stop saying this board looks diverse. What are we actionably doing to ensure that the voices of people of color are heard? That when somebody steps up and tells you that they are feeling discriminated against, that they are not being heard, that you are listening and stepping back from feeling defensive or feeling as though your privilege is being attacked, to actually create space to listen and to then act upon that voice, to create dialogue that is actually and sincerely open, to have hearts that are open, and to also begin to step away from this appropriation of cultures that has gone on for so long and continues. Because in the wellness industry, this is one of the things that happens. There are beautiful modalities that come from all over the world, but my question to you is, if you run a wellness center or a publication, do you have people from that culture, experts from that culture who can speak to that particular modality? Are you actually raising the voices of people who belong to those cultures? Are you creating spaces for them? Or at the risk of sounding, and I'm not even apologetic for this, are you just another white yoga center saying namaste to me and trying to teach me about my culture? I want you to understand, and I want this community to understand, that we have to build a new future. It is no longer okay to carry on what has been happening for centuries around the globe. This is not just an American problem. And it is not okay that my Black brothers and sisters, my African American brothers and sisters, my African brothers and sisters, people who choose to even make India their home are discriminated against because of the color of their skin. Let's not hold up certain minorities as the model minority and think we've done our job. Let's try to move past counting colors. Let's do a better job of actually listening and holding ourselves accountable. I do that for myself. I check my own privilege because I know I'm a lighter shade of Indian, and most people respond to me with, "You don't look Indian." So I understand. And so today I ask of you, check your privilege and let's just try to create actual change as opposed to talking about it.
Kyle, thank you so much. I want you to know that not only will this, we're recording this and this will be available on our website and people can share it. We also do get the chat. We record the chat because there's a tremendous amount of support for all of the people who have been speaking this morning that you couldn't possibly be watching while you're speaking. But you know, there's a tremendous, you've hit such important notes and people are really responding. It's really resonating. And I thank you all for sharing your hearts. It's such a difficult thing to do, but you all have been doing it so beautifully. It's now time to ask other people to comment and share. We're going to take a few minutes to do this before we go into breakout rooms where we'll be able to do that in a more intimate setting. I'm going to ask that if you have something you want to contribute, we just want to know your name and your country. We're not going to talk about companies this morning. We want to get right to your heart. If you have something to share, we're going to limit those comments to about a minute so we can get to as many people as possible. And whoever would like to begin, please just unmute and speak, or raise your hand and we'll go there.
UK.
Go ahead.
Hi, yeah. I first of all, thank you so much for this, and just listening to the original 4 speakers, very powerful, and thank you. I'm really intrigued as to what the Global Wellness Institute is going to do moving forward, because I can see, just looking at your board of directors, they are, from what I can see, almost all of them are white. You have possibly one advisor on your board who might not be white. 36% are male, 63% female. And I'm just wondering, like, what is it that you're going to do to attract the very best talent from a more diverse background, Black, Indigenous, people of colour. I'm also quite intrigued by the ambassador programme. I can see that in order to become an ambassador, it's going to cost me £1,000. Now, for me as a very privileged white woman, I know that I don't have that kind of money. And even if I did, I have to question what return I would get from that. So I do question.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna just stop you because we're just trying to limit and get as many people to share as possible. Thank you. And I don't know, Susie, if you want to address, I just want to say that Susie is going to be addressing at the end of this call all the things we're going to be doing as an institution. We did not want to be talking about ourselves for the lion's share of this call. We really wanted to hear people's thoughts and feelings on the issue, but Susie will be addressing that those issues later, and I thank you for bringing them up and pointing them out.
Yes,
Mia,
I just wanted to add a thank you, Samantha, for that. Those are excellent points, and I will address that.
Mia, okay, Mia has had her hand up. Yes, quickly.
Sure. So Mia Caricos here in the United States. I'm just going to share an observation that I think could lend to an opportunity for this community. Having worked with Fortune 500 companies in corporate America in a variety of forms, Nike, Johnson & Johnson, Deloitte, several others. One observation I've seen is that the wellness and well-being departments are separate from the inclusion and diversity departments. And it's been one of my greatest soapboxes that I've stood on, because if we look at wellness narrowly to how we eat and sleep and move, but we reject the fact that if you do not feel safe or included in your corporate environment or in your community, you have no chance in hell of living a well life and actually feeling comfortable to pursue the more traditional forms of wellness, mind, body health as we know it today. So I just think that that's an opportunity for us to advocate for as a community, is to see inclusion and diversity as a part of that.
Thank you. Excellent point. And it's true that all those departments are currently separate. Someone else like to share a thought, a feeling?
Yes, good morning, everyone, and thank you. I have an invitation to issue to everyone on this call, and the invitation is check your own assumptions. Observe your own mindset and understand from what place are you perceiving and feeling separateness, because that speaks specifically to what Melise addressed and everyone on this call, and the particular invitation by Payal to check your privilege. If we do not have the capacity to understand that we are not separate, that when someone tosses a ball in the air, it ripples throughout not just this planet, but potentially everywhere. So with that said, the invitation is check your mindset and check your assumptions. Look at Maslow. The final piece of Maslow was self-transcendence. And with that, I am complete. Thank you.
Nancy, I just want to say that I now want to hear from Black voices. We just heard from 3 not Black voices. So I want to hear from Black voices. So please, someone step up.
My name is Paula.
I will. Can I? Can we put it in order?
Krystina was next.
There's 3 of you, so go ahead.
Okay.
Bola, go ahead. Bola has been...
Okay, thank you, Susie, and thank you all panels. This is really very touchy. Like Randy said, I can't talk without being nervous. And I think 3 days I put a video out on my Facebook just breaking down. I'm a mother of 4, and it can be business as usual. For wellness practitioners, for the globe, for everywhere, I moved into the state 40 years ago, and I have personally, having trained my boys to be so cautious, I personally experienced it, and I was shocked. So I'm breaking down because all these incidents are happening within the last 90, 120 days. It's not like it's new, it's not new. But when you personally experience it, it is devastating. I drive at night and I shake. I see a police officer and I break down. And when this happened, my son is in the military and he's breaking down right now because he felt like I lost my mom. So I am talking from a place of experience. And when you're a person of color, you've either experienced it or have a loved one that have experienced it. I'm not only Black, I'm Muslim, I'm African. I'm a trigger. So I am breaking down. I've talked to my community, I'm talking, but I still break down. It can be business as usual. But how do we move on is the point. And like the other person said, I've also looked at your space as a wellness group. There's no diversity. We can keep talking about diversity and we can talk about inclusiveness. I mean, all corporate companies have this, but we're not doing it. We're not taking it into action. It's not reflecting what we're saying. I'm sorry.
No, do not apologize.
Thank you.
I really can't say this. I mean, like I said, a mother of 4 boys, in the military, they're feeling it. In college, they're feeling it. On the street, they're feeling it. I got one arrested for playing basketball. How does that happen? And we're in courtroom, and they're still making a gist of it, and the judge doesn't see anything wrong with that. There's a lot of dysfunctionality.
Thank you, Bola.
No matter how hard we try to practice.
Thank you so much.
It's hard.
Thank you. Catherine, can we hear from you? You were going to, or Chi, or Catherine?
Shay. I think Krystina is first. She can go ahead and then I'll go.
Okay.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Do I sound clear to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'm Krystina Hangsen. I'm with the New York State Society of Medical Massage Therapists. I'm on the board, and I'm a massage therapist, esthetician, and I've managed some spas in the past. So, of course, I'm going to circle back to my New York contingency. I know that I recognize on the call. Just a few thoughts, because I think some of us are going to say the same thing. So as much as I'm feeling some level of grief, I'm going to, move forward. Spirituality drives me more than my culture. So what I have expected was this, in spiritual circles, there's supposed to be the new spiritual era coming. And some of us think that this is it. We've all been playing on the year 2020, meaning perfect vision. This pandemic has come. Now this has come. And for some of us, it's, it is the beginning of change. We're embracing this, on a spiritual level, that this is probably these forces. And for those who subscribe to Marianne Williamson, those dark psychic forces, the underbelly that she had talked about, this could be part of it. We're just, being called into it as one school of thinking. And so for all of us to realize this is probably just the beginning, and it's a long road. Other part of that chapter, in the African-American community, we're already looking at the most, sensitive, critical, and probably the most dangerous time, at least in the U.S., is going to be November 4th, 2020 to January 20, whatever, the day of the inauguration. However those presidential elections play out and what comes of it, that time frame from the election to January is going to be very, very interesting. So whatever we do today, is everyone going to be committed for the long haul? Just the way the civil rights movement was just not just, you know, a boycott here, you know, a protest or a march there. There's a long haul and sacrifice to be made. So, you know, that's one. Point number two,
Thank you, Krystina.
you know,
Excuse me, Krystina, let's just go very quickly because we want to get to the breakouts. Catherine or Che?
Okay.
Thank you, Krystina.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. Shay from Toronto. Hi, Randy. So much love for you here. I'm a meditation teacher. I just want to offer a couple different thoughts. That as wellness practitioners, as wellness advocates, as educators, we have to also look at the diversity of our thinking as wellness activists. And this is a moment where there's going to be multiple streams that we feel grief, and some of us, the grief is more explicit because we carry the skin that is seen as or devalued or stigmatized. And so many of us are people of color who are in this space are going to be experiencing a great deal of suffering right now, right? And so our practice becomes even more important. The practice of contemplation, our own individual spiritual practices. I'd like to encourage all of you, even though there's a great desire to come up with a solution right now. We are the solutions, everyone on this call. And it means that each of us is going to have to invest even more heavily in our own intellectual, spiritual, physical growth and rest, so that we can harness the moment of right now, which is the moment of right now to me, is that there's no denial anymore. I think as a Black person, one of the things that you struggle with internationally and, you know, especially in North America and the US, is that there's often a denial of your experience. No, you're not being followed. No, you know, you're not being denied this opportunity because of your color. It's not happening. We're equal now. And now there's a reality of it's been caught on camera, right? So not only do we have to acknowledge what's happening and allow it to grow, we have to stand up as wellness activists and really have that space, have that space in us come forward, because every single person here, including people who are white. I mean, I have to mention this one thing. I really am uncomfortable about the amount of people who keep calling to say they are, you know, feeling bad for me. Listen, we are the same. What is in you is in me. What is in me is in you. What is happening to me and people of color is happening to you. Those of us who are in the wellness environment ecosystem, I've been in it for 30 years. I've been a meditation teacher for 25. Okay, like, I mean, we know there is no separation. So don't grieve for me, grieve for us. We grieve together.
Thank you, Shay. Nancy, I'm going to suggest that we go to the breakouts, and then when we come back, Catherine Whalen, you'll be the first we're going to listen to.
I am in the UK, and I run a company called Wellness and Beauty for All, and we trade as Spa Beautiful in the northwest of the UK near Manchester. I was born in West Africa in Cameroon, so you know, I'm married to a white person, so diversity is very important in our family. But you know, instead of giving you so much about myself, I really want to talk about the issue itself. Racism, everybody has to acknowledge that racism has evolved historically from a place, from the American history to colonization and all that. we're not going to go back there because we're living in a time where the world has changed, and the events of the last year in the United States have actually brought back to the surface an evil that is underlying within our communities. So it feels as if this is the time for change to come. So instead of skimming the surface, I think the way forward would to start to deal with the problem at the root of the problem. We are faced with dealing with mindsets that have philosophies and ways of thinking that have infiltrated and are deeply rooted in our cultures. We have to admit that. And that's what the problem is. Those mindsets are established, and it's more about inequalities and injustice really than anything else at this point in time. And I think you all agree with that. So, but how can we actually deal with those mindsets and those philosophies that are in our cultures moving forward? On one side, I see the Black community where there's so much pain and ingrained in our lives, fear and anger. I can see that. And on the other hand, I can see that our white brothers and sisters have a privilege that they can use in a more positive way. On one hand, I believe that the Black community has to forgive and actually be open to that change. But on the other hand, I really feel that, how can our white brothers and sisters use their privilege to actually erase those, actually raise or lobby governments, education systems that are actually helping to ingrain those mindsets, or who have helped to ingrain those mindsets into the hearts of people. That's all I had to
Catherine,
say.
thank you so much. I want to get to another comment. KJ.
Yes, thank you, Nancy. And thank you to all of you participating today on this very important topic. Not to waste any time here, I just want to point out some things that maybe might be helpful for some of you. And that is 2 books that I found very helpful. The first one is How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi, okay? And as well, White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. Both of these books really give a perspective that I think can help you if you're struggling with how do I proceed in this environment to be helpful and impactful in a way that helps. So those things I think are really speaking to some of the tasks that you can probably do on your own to help us get to that next point, not only in your life, but also collectively in the world, and particularly here in the US, because we all know that this country was founded on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but yet for many, that's only been a dream rather than reality. So thank you all for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Eduardo from...
I'm sorry, I'm gonna, oh, okay. Eduardo,
go ahead, Eduardo, just very quickly.
Very quickly, yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I want to say is that there's a sense that I've heard people talk about that we're in wellness. And I want to say that I think we're going to advance when every human realizes that they're in wellness, and our collective wellness is a team sport, and that it starts with how we engage and interact with each other on the streets. I'm here in Minneapolis, and I think that the way that inhumanity anywhere is a threat to humanity everywhere. And it starts with how we interact with each other, whites with whites, whites with non-blacks, with everybody, and how we interact with each other is where it happens. So
Eduardo,
if we want to do better, then we need to hold each other as humans wherever we interact.
Eduardo, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. Obviously, we're going to have more calls. There's a lot to talk about. And we can't get to all of it in the first hour. This is our first step in having this conversation and making substantive change. I just want to say I'm honored and grateful to be part of this and committed personally and professionally to this journey in both of our organizations and in life. And I'm just going to ask Susie to share now what we are doing in our organizations and what we plan to do. And then for those of you who can stay on an extra minute or two, Randy May is going to give us a meditation about the future and some hope to end this call. Susie?
Yes, thank you, Nancy, and thank you all for being on the call. I feel very inadequate about reading this list of things that we have talked about internally, but we wanted to end with some action, not just conversation. We are going to do more conversations like this and others, but I'm just going to read this list. I know it's just the beginning and it's not enough, but here are a few things that we have definitely decided we're going to do. Obviously, we are going to post this masterclass recording so many more people can hear it. We are going to take quotes from this, from some of our speakers, and we're going to put them up on our website. We're going to have a panel of experts at the 2020 summit. Desiree Watson is going to be moderating that. She's already agreed to do that for us. We are releasing actually this week our Trendium with the title of Black Women Founded Wellness Businesses. And we're going to make an effort to do a whole lot more in all of our writings, the Trendium, the brief, and so on. We're going to add a section to the Global Wellness Brief to discuss this continually and ongoing. Our Q&A, the next one will be about with someone that has a Black voice. We are going to create some sponsored scholarships to the summit for people of color who will be able to come. We have a Wellness at Work webinar series in place, and this is going to be a topic that's going to be important in that. We're asking every one of our nearly 30 global wellness initiatives to include this topic, not just in general, but in every one of their conversations and projects. We want to launch a new initiative at the Global Wellness Institute that will help us infuse this throughout, but we feel that at least it'll be a start to have an initiative focused on this. We'll have additional calls and there's so much more we could do. I will personally, and I started this already, I've decided that every day, no matter if we have a call or if we have a meeting with our board or if we have a conversation with a company or a media conversation, I want to bring this topic up because I am committed and I'm encouraged because we have been able to move the needle on a lot of things in the last 10 to 15 years because collaboratively we've done that. Look at the fact that the word wellness wasn't even talked about much 10 years ago. So I'm optimistic that we're going to make progress, and I apologize ahead of time. I know it's not going to be always the right moves or the most timely moves, but I'm committed. And so I just want to thank you all for being on the call. And I just thank you for your patience as we move forward. I also want to mention about our board of directors. Yes, we need more diversity, and we will make that happen too. So I invite everyone's help because we're going to need everyone's help.
Thank you, Susie, and for leading not just the organizations really, but the industry. This is an industry that needs some leadership right now on this issue, and really very much appreciate everything everybody is doing and can do. And I'm just going to ask Randy to come back. I like the symmetry of beginning and ending with the same person. If Randy would offer us a short meditation, that would be great.
I'm going to invite everybody just to take a pause for a moment. You want to close your eyes. You want to get comfortable wherever you are. Just take a moment just to feel your body, just to feel where your breath is landing in your body. Noticing what emotions might be sitting in your body and just giving them room to be where they are. As we collectively work together and bring awareness to the changes, the pain, the frustration, and the moments where we feel inspired, I invite you to take a deep breath in together, expanding your lungs, expanding the breath in the body, and a gentle and slow breath out whenever you're ready. And as we inhale again together, inhaling in possibilities, inhaling into holding space and becoming one as we work together. And whenever you breathe out, letting go and allowing life to move you into the direction of our humanity. And as we take another deep breath in, whenever you're ready, at your own rhythm and pace, breathe in to your oneness with humanity and allow the possibilities to come to you and be open to them as you receive them from this day on in every moment of your life. I invite you to open up your heart to compassion and to allowing your humanity and our collective consciousness to lift you all in every moment, in every space, in every opportunity that presents itself. So we'll take one collective silent breath together, opening up the lungs and possibilities, and breathing into our being and letting go as we settle into what we just experienced together. Thank you all for being a part of this practice. I know this conversation will continue, but it is a long haul, like someone said earlier. And if we all, there's 205 people and there are almost 300 people on this call. If we all keep connecting and we all keep the conversation going for the next year, then something magnificent can happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
You'll be hearing from us in a day or so. Lots of information, lots of ways to become involved, and look for invitations to future events around this topic, which will be coming very quickly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I invite anyone who feels like they want to say something and didn't have a chance to please put it in the chat. We will save all of the chat remarks and share them. So please, we'll keep the chat open and share your thoughts there.
And Susie and I are always available. Email us. You'll have our email addresses in the follow-up, and email us, reach out to us. We respond.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Nancy.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Beatrice.
you.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was amazing.